Hello and welcome to Letters Home, a story of a World War II B-17 pilot from Lowell, Michigan in his own words. And he just so happens to be my grandpa. I'm your host, Annie Whitlock, and I'm joined by my co-host, my dad, Mitch McMahon, my aunt, Lori McMahon Summerfield, and Dale Croft from the Lowell Historical Museum.
In each episode of Letters Home, we're going to dive into letters written by my dad during his time in World War II that he sent to his parents, siblings, and friends back home in Lowell, Michigan. We'll be reading his own words and giving some context as to what was happening in the world and in Lowell at the time he wrote these.
In this episode, we read the first letters Dad writes from overseas. We learn about V-mail, WRENS, and more about Dad's sweet tooth.
Absolutely. So our first episode where Bruce is overseas. But before we get to that, Dale has some additions for us from our last episode. So what more information do we have?
One of those was everybody wondered what the Lone Pine Inn was.
That's right.
It was Shady Anchors, and it was our Shady Anchors that all us, well, Mitch and Lori and
I don't know.
Annie knows nothing about. So that mystery is solved. It's Shady Anchors.
Oh,
okay.
The other thing we talked about, the sprayer companies in Lowell at the time, I stated that it was started by Look and Watts, or Waits, doing more research this week for research for this podcast. I found a picture of a gentleman called C.W. Sparks. He invented a potato sprayer for the local farmers, and he was the person that got the wheels going in motion for factories in 1897. And I want to put a chronological order to the sprayer companies. So the Parks Manufacturing Company started in 1897. Then it was the Lowell Novelty Works, which we're not sure on any dates. The Lowell Specialty Company was 1905. Lowell Sprayer Company was 1928. Lowell Manufacturing Company, which my grandfather and
my uncle
Bern McMahon worked at, was 1941. Lowell Manufacturing Company and Root Manufacturing Company was 1953. Root Lowell Manufacturing Company was 1953 also, and then R.L. Flowmaster is 1987 to the present. So we've gone from 1897, that started with a potato sprayer by C.W. Sparks, to Flowmaster, which is just across the street, or just a hip and a jump from here, into 2025. So we've got over, 128 years of sprayers starting from 1897.
It's the evolution of it.
I also found one cool thing. We talked about the publicity. I found another article called Lowell Plant Given National Publicity. The Lowell Manufacturing Company received national mention last week in Newsweek magazine on their new product, a light electric paint spray gun for home use. The new sprayer was called the Thurleigh spray, which is so light and handy to use that it makes painting fun. Can use enamel, lacquer, paint, varnish, or stain with equal efficiency. Demand for sprayer equipment is very heavy and is at just one of the many new products that the Lowell paint plant is putting on the market to keep operating at full capacity. So in 1946, summer of 1946.
So they didn't just make bug sprayers.
We were in
paint sprayers,
they make
potato
all kinds of
sprayers.
All kinds of sprayers now.
Okay. That's great.
I doubt that they made painting fun, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not sure
maybe
about
a
that.
little exaggeration.
Well,
we
maybe that's
discovered-
why the ladybugs are orange and black. It's from the sprayers.
Well, we discovered that Bern worked there and Ed Reynolds worked there, who was Marian's husband. So that might explain why Bruce was saying, tell sis to get the Lowell name on this sprayer.
Absolutely.
Thinking that they would have
I
something
also
to do with
was
it.
told by Luann that because the Lowell had to trade their trademark because when some mergers of those companies, one group went to Saranac and another group stayed here in Lowell, and the Saranac people didn't want the Lowell people to keep the Lowell name. So there was I think that's where the problem occurred from the Lowell going off the sprayers.
Some local news. Who would have thought we would get into sprayer manufacturing in this podcast? I did not. At least this research takes us on many different turns. But this is exciting because this episode is Bruce's first set of letters from overseas. And again, I promise we are going to read some, but I want to say that quite a few of Bruce's letters are now going to be written in a different format. So he now starts using something called V-mail when he writes from overseas. And we have to figure out, if you look on the Lowell Historical Museum website and you can see the letters, you can see how different V-mail looks from Bruce's regular letters, but we need to figure out what V-mail is. So Dale, why don't you kick us off and explain what exactly this is?
Well, on June 15th, 1942, the Post Office Department officially inaugurated V-mail service. The name V-mail comes from V for victory, symbol used during World War II. Soldiers sent V-mail home by writing their messages on dedicated V-mail stationery that was 17.8 by 23.2 centimeters.
Sure.
That would go through mail sensors before photographed as a thumbnail image on 16 millimeter microfilm, allowing many letters to be stored on a single roll. The microfilm rolls were then quickly transported by air to the receiving station near the soldier's location. And once at the destination, the letters were printed back to a readable size and delivered to the recipient. According to the National Postal Museum, V-mail ensured that thousands of tons of shipping space could be reserved for war materials. The 37 mail bags required to carry 150,000 one-page letters could be replaced by a single mail sack.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
The weight of that same amount of mail was reduced dramatically by 2,575 pounds to a mere 45 pounds.
Oh, my goodness.
This saved considerable weight and bulk and time, and both were hard to manage in a combat zone.
Oh, sure.
Now, if you haven't seen the movie 6888,
Oh, not yet.
that's out on Netflix or whatever, that deals with the first black WAC unit and the only black American unit that went over to a female unit that went to the war that had to deal with, I think, if I remember right, 11 million letters or something there. It's an incredible story, true story. So if you get a chance, watch it. In addition to postal censorship, V-mail also deterred espionage communications by foiling the use of invisible ink, microdots, and microprinting, none of which would be reproduced on photocopy. So there's your V-mail. And I have a great primary resource on our video production. It's a cartoon or comic representation of V-mail, and it's really lays it out quite nice. So V-mail.
So
All
it
right.
saved
Very cool.
space.
Yeah.
And think about that, because you have like this volume of letters obviously
weight,
must increase.
Fuel,
Yeah.
all kinds of different
And
things.
then also saved, from secrets getting out.
Espionage.
So if you were to write Bruce a letter from Lowell, so let's say you're Frank and Lotta, you would send it to an address in New York first. So some of these V-mails that you're going to see have Bruce's address as New York, even though that's not where he is. I'm assuming that's because so people back home they can't know his exact location, right? So that's also a secret. So they just know he's in England somewhere. So they send it to New York, and then New York gets it to Bruce, this office in New York. And there's a room for a censor stamp on these V-mails. So like Dale mentioned, I still have to censor your letters. And since Bruce was an officer, I'm pretty sure I know he would sign his own letters that they were censored, like self-censored. But I think he also probably had to censor other people's letters, like his crew and stuff. So he's, reading other people's letters, and he's like stamp it and say, all right, this is good. Also, because it's V-mail, we get to see the address that Bruce is writing to for the first time. So when we started this podcast, we have these envelopes, but it would always just say like Frank and Lotta Lowell, because like Lowell, Michigan, because everyone just knew where they lived. But now they have street names. But I'm confused because the address that Bruce is sending to Frank and Lotta says 112 Hudson Street. But I know that's not, if you're not in Lowell listening, because I know there's some people that are not, 112 Hudson Street is not on Reservoir Hill. So I don't.
His family
anyone
did have a
explain
house there. I know it because he was born in a house that was on Hudson.
I think it was-
Okay.
yeah.
So
112 Hudson, I think. Yeah.
well,
Okay,
that would
must
make
be.
sense. So Frank and Lotta had more than one house?
Well, I think maybe that was the first house, and then maybe there was another, and then maybe they built up on Reservoir. I'm not exactly sure. That's what I'm guessing.
Oh.
was they built up there? Because I remember Dad said, oh, they tore the house where I was born. They tore it down. It's over by the post office.
Yeah.
But then, but he still does. They still talk about Reservoir Hill all the time in some of these letters. So somebody's living up there.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know. Maybe they own both of these houses.
I know Gail probably would know.
Oh,
Let's talk to Gail.
That's a good point.
Got to get Gail back.
We got to
All
get
right.
Gail asking her.
We'll get Gail back in here. Okay. Well, anyway, now that we've given enough prep, let's get into to some of these letters. This first one is from September 6, 1943, in his own words.
Dear Mother and Dad, I know how anxious you've been to hear from me, and I can now tell you that I'm somewhere in England. Exactly where I'm located is a military secret, but when you realize this country is slightly smaller than the state of Minnesota, you can see the exact location isn't important. I'm finally getting used to their currency over here, although I must admit I have some difficulty at first. It's all 1/6 or 2/4, etc. Considering all this country has been through in the last 4 years, they are surprisingly cheerful and confident of the future. So far in my association with these people, all I can say is that they are truly wonderful people. The weather is more or less what you might expect to find in England. Because of censorship, I can't tell you exactly what the weather or looks of the surrounding country. My food and lodging is very good, with plenty of hot water for shaving and showers. We get plenty of American cigarettes and a little candy and gum. In fact, I have everything I need and have no kick coming on my treatment over here. As yet, I haven't visited many big towns, although I have seen a few of them. Some of the towns, or should I say most of them, are very quaint and beautiful. Practically all the houses are brick with numerous gables and chimneys. The countrysides are quite similar to our own in Michigan. From now on, I'll try to write twice a week so that after you receive this letter, you should start getting them regularly. Of course, there is always holidays and delays, and so if you don't receive them regularly, don't worry about anything. I think of you constantly, and it won't be long until I'm with you again. You have all my love and prayers. Your loving son, J. Bruce.
All right. Well, even though Bruce can't tell us exactly where in England he is, we do know now that he is in Thurleigh, England, at the Thurleigh Airfield. So, Dale, what can you tell us about Thurleigh Airfield?
Well, the Thurleigh Airfield was built between two farmlands on a plateau north of Thurleigh, England. The airfield was initially used by the Royal Air Force Bomber Command for training of RAF and Polish personnel from 1941 to 1942. But was handed over to the United States Army Air Force in 1942. During World War II, Thurleigh Airfield was a large, primarily American base used by the U.S. 8th Air Force, mainly the 306th Bombardment Group, from 1942 to 1945, where they operated B-17 Flying Fortress bombers. It was known for its 3 converging runways, one 6,000 feet long and 2 being 4,200 feet long, and were significantly upgraded to handle the heavy weight of the American bombers. It provided a self-sufficient community with its own housing, hospital, cinema, and other facilities, effectively acting as a small town within itself. The B-17 Flying Fortresses of the 306 Bomb Group flew 341 bombing missions from the airfield. Bruce flew 30 of those missions, which was 8%.
Wow.
Placed on care and maintenance at the end of the war, the airfield was used for research and development by the Royal Aeronautic Establishment. The airfield was sold in 1996 and is now used by various commercial enterprises. 341 missions.
Wow. Yeah.
And there's a museum over there now, right?
There
that
is.
You
Yeah.
guys are thinking of going to. Huh?
I want to go. Yeah. I want to go. Dad won't get on a plane.
I'd like to go too.
I don't know.
Hey, Lori and I will go party it up. Dale, you want to come? We'll go to Thurleigh Airfield.
Put me down as a maybe.
Okay. And it's funny, like, your Grandpa Bruce flew planes, and I've never seen you willingly get on one.
I've been on a plane 4 times, I think.
4? Oh,
4
my
times.
God.
I'm with
I
Mitch.
know
I
that's
don't
a
like
month.
guys?
It's a good
Okay.
month for you or whatever.
All
but-
right. Well, that's fine. To each his own. All right. Well, this is good to know. So we know that Bruce was in the 306 bomb group, and we know that they were stationed in Thurleigh. Even though Bruce can't tell us exactly in these letters, we can now piece it together now. But now we're going to talk about what was going on in the world and in Lowell when Bruce wrote these letters. And First of all, Bruce does note in one of the letters, just a little fun fact, that the newspapers in England don't report on baseball, so he can't follow the Tigers. He's a little bummed about this. So he wrote in a letter from September 7th, 1943. So thanks to the internet, I looked up who the Tigers played on September 7th, 1943. And I can tell you they played a doubleheader against the White Sox and won both games 5-0 and 6-5.
Don't let the Tigers get hot.
Don't let the Tigers get hot. Not even in 1943. He does talk about baseball in some future letters coming up here soon because it's the fall. So they're getting into playoffs. But we're going to read a letter that Bruce wrote to his brother-in-law, Ed, who we've mentioned is married to his sister, Marion. So in his own words.
Dear Ed, well, I'm in the land of gin and ale, bowlers and trench coats, and uniformed women. Because this talk would eventually get around to women anyway, I might as well say it right now. They're swell. All of them do their best to ape over American women, especially around American flying officers. They use leg makeup, and the other day I saw one with leg makeup on her face. Nevertheless, they are very friendly, and they do their best to make us feel at home. I'm getting now so that I can tell a wren from a weft, and a subalternate from a streetcar conductress. All, or at least 90% of the women are in uniform, and they're doing a great job. They know all our currently popular songs and will sing them on the least provocation. They don't care for Robert Taylor, Victor Mature, or Tyrone because they're too greasy. They're very polite, and after you buy them a drink, it's always cheerio. For the present, that's all I can think of, and if you want any questions answered by your roving reporter, just ask them, and I'll answer them. My living quarters are really luxurious, and the food is very good. Plenty of American cigarettes, magazines, and chewing gum. In fact, all we lack is ice cream, white bread, and bicycles. This is all for now. Keep things status quo, and I'll be seeing ya, Brother J. Bruce.
We'll get around to women anyway. He's writing to his brother-in-law. Love it. So we've learned about wax. But Dale, what is a wren?
A wren refers to a woman serving in the Woman's Royal Naval Service, WRNS, the female branch of the British Royal Navy. The nickname Wren is derived from the acronym WRNS and was used to refer to all women serving in this branch during the war. It was established during World War I and revived at the start of World War II. Wrens performed a variety of non-combat roles on land, including clerical work, radio operation, coding, radar plotting, and more, freeing up men to serve on ships, just like the WACs, pretty much. In 1939, the first female students were admitted to the Royal Naval College and included courses in officers training, cipher, and administration. The Wren's motto was "Never at Sea," the idea being that women would serve supporting roles firmly on dry land. However, they did remain confined to the clerical and catering jobs the Navy had first intended. In fact, the wren was honored in Irish mythology as a wise and clever bird who outsmarted the eagle to be king of the birds. The story goes that the birds decided to have a competition to elect the king. The winner was to be the bird who flew the highest, and the eagle was confident of winning. Obviously, the eagle lost. The WRNS reached its largest size in 1944, with 74,000 women doing over 200 different jobs.
Wow.
Cool.
303 Wrens were killed on wartime service.
Oh, wow.
After the war, the WRNS was made a permanent part of the Royal Navy, but women did not serve in the Royal Navy ships until the 1990s.
Oh, man.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Interesting. After all that work, still couldn't get into the Navy ships, huh? Till the 90s. Well, that's cool. Yeah. So Bruce did write this acronym as WREN in his letter, but that must have just been because he's trying to they must be
Wrens.
calling them Wrens. Yeah. That makes sense. This leg makeup thing is funny. I know that women would sort of put makeup on their legs to make it look like they were wearing nylons because there's a nylon shortage, and so they'd draw the line or whatever down their legs. But I don't. But putting them on their face, how would, I don't know, is that just foundation? Is that just makeup?
Must be.
So he's surprised that women are wearing makeup. Not the line on their face.
I don't know.
I can't be. Anyway, well, I'll do some digging on World War II era makeup.
Leg makeup.
Leg makeup and face makeup. All right. So in a letter from September 9th, 1943, Bruce also discusses some war news with his parents in his own words.
Dear Mother and Dad, the good news of Italy's capitulation was heard over the radio here last night. Now, how do you suppose they knew I was over here? Seriously, though, it was good news to everyone over here, and it should hasten the day of victory. Each day that passes brings new experiences in this country. Last night I learned how to play darts and spent an enjoyable evening at it with 2 old Britishers. I received my weekly ration of cigarettes, candy, etc. this afternoon, so now as I write this, I'm sucking on Lime Lifesavers. I had a bit of a cold yesterday, but today it's all cleared up. Contrary to what you might think with this English climate, I'm still without a cough, and my last headache was in civilian life. Last night I was given an invitation by my dart friends to visit an English castle. At my first opportunity, I intend to take them up on it. In this country, there are so many interesting sights, one hardly knows where to start looking first. I hope these letters arrive on different dates, but they'll probably all come in a bunch. You are ever in my hearts and prayers. Your loving son, J. Bruce.
This is the first time he played darts? Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
must
Oh,
be.
maybe he just learned how to do it. Which that seems crazy to me because how many times we would throw darts in his basement.
Yeah.
So it's funny that I have memories of throwing darts and what is the basement of your house now?
Well, maybe it wasn't popular here.
Maybe it wasn't, or maybe
Until
he just
after
never figured
the
it
war.
out. But well, he certainly brought it back. So we learned in this last episode about Italy and Italy's imminent surrender. And so it looks like September 9th, the news is finally here. And we've also had a lot of mentions of candy in these episodes. So, and we're not even done. There's more to it. So we're going to finish today with a lighter letter from September 18th, 1943, where Bruce talks more about how things are going in England food-wise. He's very big on the food in these letters. So, in his own words.
Dear Mother and Dad, it's rather late at night, but I'm not sleepy, so I'll write a few lines. In my last B-mail to you, I asked for candy, and here I am munching on some Necco wafers. Remember these different colored candies we used to buy as kids? Guess I'm not very hard up for sweets. Our mess seems to get better every day, but let me give you a typical day's menu. Breakfast: hotcakes and syrup, fruit juice, bread and butter and jam, coffee, and stewed prunes or plums. Dinner: a good meat pie, peas, carrots, canned peaches, and cocoa. Supper: beef steak or pork chops, beans, potatoes, gravy, salad, coffee, and some pudding. From all this, you can see I'm doing okay, and I'm also gaining back weight. You won't know me when I'm home again. Before long, it will start getting cold over here. With the nice barracks we have, I don't mind a bit. It will seem good after 2 winters of sunshine and torrid temperatures. Maybe my next winter will be spent toasting my feet over our fireplace. At least the newspapers gives us great hope these days. Although I'm finally realizing the many months of training I spent in the States, I can't say that it's much different over here with the real thing. If only I didn't know that it worried you more, my living over here, I could say that I enjoy it much more. Doggone, but these V-mails have no room at all on them. Still, they do let you know everything is okay. And I miss you very much. And in that short while, we'll all be together again. All my love, son, J. Bruce.
Oh, he's happy to be in the English weather because it's not the desert.
Yeah.
He doesn't like the heat. So he's like, it's finally cold.
Yeah.
And it was not a snow. Our parents weren't snowbirds either. They didn't mind the winters here. So
Yeah, I mean, I can tell. That makes sense now. And he actually likes English food. I think he might be the only person I've ever met that enjoys the food in England. So he's got all this, menu that he loves. And we get more mentions of candy. Did you all know about his love of Lime Lifesavers and Necco wafers?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Oh, really?
Well,
we
we'd
know he
always
has a
get
sweet tooth.
that box of Lifesavers at Christmas time.
oh yeah.
Okay. He also mentions marshmallows in another letter, from this time. So he's got Lifesavers, Necco wafers, marshmallows. We know he likes Divinity and maple sugar. We're getting a nice list of
It's
things.
kind of like Elf, the whole syrup on, spaghetti.
That's one of the reasons he said he had it so much easier than soldiers on the ground. being able to fly back and eat a good meal.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Not,
And sleep in a
catering.
bed.
Right, and sleep
Yeah.
in a
In
bed.
bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. With little
Not in a foxhole.
Yeah, that's very true. Well, thank you for listening to Letters Home. We hope you continue to listen as we go through Bruce's story. You can listen to Letters Home on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or the Lowell Historical Museum website and YouTube channel. New episodes drop every Thursday. The Lowell Historical Museum has digitized versions of Bruce's letters so you can read them in full, along with primary sources for most of the people, places, and events we've talked about here today, plus more. You can also follow the Lowell Historical Museum on Facebook and the Letters Home podcast on Instagram at Letters Home Lowell. Thank you to Roger McNaughton for our podcast music and to WRWW 92.3 FM for letting us record in their studio at Lowell High School every week. Tune in or stream WRWW at lowellradio.org. See you next time.